Okay, here we are live today on this Zoom call. I am here with Marci Brockmann. She's my co-host today. Marci lives in Long Island, New York, and she is the author of a book called Permission to Land, which you can see behind her. I also have my journal copy. This isn't the
Oh,
actual
yay.
book, but this is the journal book that she has, a companion book to go with it. And my name is Kerry Ahrend. I'm also an author. I'm author of a book called Project Career Quest. Okay, thanks, Marcy. I'll let you put that one up there. I appreciate that. So I help people who are in transition to find work that's meaningful, purposeful. People who have been laid off, people who are underemployed, unemployed, or just looking for something that's more meaningful and purposeful. And one of the things that I like to do is also to work with college students and help them as they transition from college, well, I call it college to career. And I read Marcy's book, great book about her personal journey, her life from childhood on to pretty much right now. And she talks a lot about, she has a section in her book where she talks about her career challenges, and they're very similar to the challenges that I had and that a lot of us have. And since she's a high school teacher, and wow, what a better time to really start getting kids, students into thinking about what they want to do when they grow up. And of course, it doesn't mean that when you're in high school that you have to know all that, but
Very few of us do.
yeah, very few of us do. But with better coaching and better counseling, we certainly can get closer to where we want to be. And so based on that, I asked Marcy to join me, and I sort of launched off of her permission to land and called this in preparation for landing. And you can hear that noise in the background. I am sitting outside in my backyard. It's a beautiful fall day here in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I live. And so I decided to be outside, and my neighbor decided to start mowing his lawn right now. So anyway, so that's what we're doing. We started 2 weeks ago, 2 Thursdays ago at 4 o'clock at the same time. And Marcy and I basically shared our personal journeys in high school, trying to figure out where we wanted to go to college, what we wanted to major in, and the struggles in college, trying to pick a major and maybe changing majors, and then going into our first jobs and our first several jobs and those types of things. So we've been down this path, and I think that we're well qualified to talk about this. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Lisa Musilik is here with us today, and she may be jumping in at certain times. But she has a son who is currently in college. He's at North Carolina State University, which is right here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Lisa also lives in the area where I live, and her son is looking for an internship. And so the question came up, but what's the best way to find internships? So we decided to go with that topic today. Seemed timely, and also we could be helpful to Lisa and to other folks. Internships. Here's the thing that I hear from a lot of kids that are recent college graduates. They're applying for jobs, and the hiring manager is saying, or the feedback they're getting is, well, we really want someone with 5 to 6 years experience, or 3 to 5 or whatever. And it's like, well, I just graduated from college. How am I supposed to have that kind of experience? And the reality is, college kids can get experience, and the best way they can get experience is through internships. And even high school kids, again, Marcy is a high school teacher, Long Island, New York. She teaches English, and her students are all in the 11th and 12th grade. And my neighbor right over here, whose dad is the one mowing the grass right now, she is a senior in high school this year, and she wants to go to vet school eventually. At least that's the plan right now. And so she'll be choosing soon. She hasn't selected yet, but she'll be choosing soon where she wants to go to college. It's likely that she'll go to NC State University because NC State has the fourth best vet school in the country. Actually, it's tied with Ohio State as the fourth best vet school in the country. But here's what I found out, because I've been working with another friend of mine, and her daughter's going to be trying to get into vet school. She just graduated from college. And she is going to be starting, or she actually is at NC. No, she just graduated from college, but she's going to be applying to vet school. And in order to get into vet school, actually, they have to have experience before they can even go to vet school. I mean, hours and hours and hours of experience. And so one of the things that Caitlin, my neighbor over here, did this summer before she started back to high school, she did a unpaid internship at a vet's office. Now, she tried to find one locally here in Raleigh, North Carolina. She checked with several different vets, and no one was offering her an internship. Now, it was an unpaid internship is what she did. She wasn't even necessarily looking for the money. I'm sure she would have taken it if somebody was willing to pay her, but
Sure, who wouldn't?
she needed the hours if she's going to get into vet school at some point. And so what they ended up doing, and fortunately their relatives, her grandparents, her grandmother lives about an hour and a half from here, as well as her mother's sister. So she's got some relatives about an hour and a half from here. And so what she was able to find was an internship in Robeson County, where they're from originally. And because her mother works remote and works really kind of part-time, she was able to drive Caitlin every Monday morning up there. And they spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night at her grandmother's house, and then Thursday after she got off work, they would drive back here to Raleigh. So she was spending 4 days a week, and that was for about 6 or 8 weeks that she did that internship.
It's a nice amount of time.
I mean, sometimes you have to be creative and look other places, and fortunately for them, they had relatives in that area, so they were able to work that out. But for college internships, it really is important. I mean, if you want a job right out of college, it is a struggle in the fact that people want to hire someone with experience. Okay. They want, not only they want internship, they like people, for example, Lisa Musalik, who has joined us today, her son in college now, he is, I think, the social chairman or something with the fraternity that he's in. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yeah, he is. He's the social chair.
Okay, so he's the social chair. So, I mean, that is a good thing to start building your resume in college. So you really want to find some activities that you can do, some ways that you can serve, some ways that you can get some actual leadership experience, planning, organizing, those types of things that he would have to do as a social chair in college. Of course, now with the pandemic, there are probably not a lot of social activities going on, but he stepped up to the plate and he's doing that, and that's a good way to build his resume. But to find those internships, I know one of the things, Lisa, you mentioned is that he is tapping into his network there through the fraternity house, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And what does that look like when you say he's tapping into his network there?
I think he's going to be asking some of his brothers, and with their parents, a lot of them own companies, or are in position at companies where they may be able to help out, to place. But some of the companies right now, I mean, I've noticed on Indeed, they're starting to get posted, but some of them aren't thinking ahead yet for next summer.
Okay. Yeah, and the sooner that you get out there and get the jump on the internships, the better, versus them getting posted on Indeed or whatever, and then there's a lot of people applying for them. But the main thing is, at this point, he's going to be tapping primarily into his fraternity brothers' parents' network. Who again work at different companies or have contacts there, or they own a company, and that certainly is one great way to do it. For those of you that might be watching and have a copy of my book, again, this book is a Project Career Quest, Navigating the Journey to New Opportunities Waiting. Chapter 10 in my book is all about networking. In fact, the title of it is called Networking for Results. And on page 170 of my book, I talk about, like, who do you know? Okay, so when we think about who do we know, we have friends, we have relatives, we have neighbors, we have former colleagues, or your parents have former colleagues, or colleagues if they're working, high school and college alumni. You can even tap into other people. Your son could tap into people that he went to high school with that may not be at his fraternity, may not be at his university, but again, back to his high school friends. Professional organizations is a good place to tap into as well, because they would be hiring for internships. So I mean by that, for example, I was in Women in Bio. So Women in Bio is very supportive with the STEM programs and things like that, and helping young people, even though it's called Women in Bio, guys, men and boys as much as girls or women and so forth. So that's one. Another community organizations is another one, like Elks Clubs and Rotary Clubs and Lions Clubs. You might find some internships through those organizations and networking with folks there. You know, volunteer activities, church, if you have a church family, and so forth. So lots of different ways to network there. And then I have in the book also, once you've come up with a whole list, in fact, in my book, Lisa, I know you have a copy of my book, but if you'll go in there and you look, and there's a template that I have created for that. And then once you do that, I call it the AAA rating. Once you've created your network, and you'll see on page 172, Lisa, if you look that up later, where I've given a sample chart of the name, putting someone's name down and how you know them. And then I call it the AAA rating, of rating them, whether they're an acquaintance, an ally, or an advocate. An acquaintance is somebody that, that might be willing to make an introduction for you, share information with you, but somebody that may not know you that well personally. So that would be an acquaintance. Then you've got allies and people who know you personally, professionally, if it's an adult that's been out there working for a while, and they'd be, know about your abilities and your competence and your character and so forth. And then you have what I call the advocates, and those are people who are willing to put their reputation on the line for you because they believe in you, and they're going to be there to support you. So it's also nice to have some way to organize your network contacts and try to figure out, who they are. In your son's case, I think, one of the things he wants to do is obviously tap into his fraternity brothers, but you and your husband, Jim, Lisa, have a lot of contacts. I know Jim does in the business that he does, and so forth. But what I want to do right now is I want to share a couple of examples with you. I want to share one from my book, and then I'm going to have Marci share one. She had a great story that we talked about yesterday, her ex-husband, and when he was trying to get an internship years ago. And one of the things in my book, in the very first chapter, I talk about tapping in while you're out there looking for work or internships or whatever it happened to be. I call it tapping into the 3 Ps, and that's persistence, perseverance, and patience. And so that's so important when you're trying to find work or internship, anything like that. So, but the story I want to share from my book, first of all, is actually on page 182. And it's on page 182. If those of you watching, if you have a copy of my book, it's at the bottom of page 182, and it talks about internships. Now, this is a story about a young man that I met at an airport, Raleigh-Durham Airport, one time. It was in the beginning of the summer. School had just let out, and I was actually flying to Chicago, and from Chicago I had a very, very long flight to Hong Kong and Singapore, and ultimately I was going to a place in Indonesia called Balikpapan to teach for a French oil company over there. So I'm sitting in the Raleigh-Durham Airport waiting for my flight to Chicago, the first leg of my flight, and I'm sitting next to this young man, and he had on a NC State shirt, and so we started to chat, and I asked him, if he went to NC State, and he was very, very tall, and I asked him, I said, you don't have to play basketball at NC State, do you? Because he was really tall, and he said, no, ma'am, and he's very polite, and he said, I'm an engineering student at NC State University. And I said, well, what are you doing in Chicago? He says, well, I'm not going to, he said, Chicago is just part of my trip, but I'm actually on my way to Australia. And I said, oh, well, what are you doing in Australia? He said, well, I have an internship there for the summer. And so I was very interested in asking him how he got his internship. I said, what did you do to find that internship? And he said, well, what I'm doing right now is I'm an engineering student, and my goal, my ambition in life is to design cars that don't need gasoline. Okay, I want to, and I want to work for, well, Tesla was the place that he said he really wanted to work for, but he said, that's my goal. And so I was trying to find companies that, build cars like that. And so what he did, which was so creative, he said, the first thing I did, I went online and I started to look for conferences where automobile companies and startups and entrepreneurs and people like that were going to go. And I found a conference somewhere. I don't remember that he told me exactly where it was, but he said, so I was going to sign up and go to this conference, but it was pretty pricey. And of course, he was a junior at NC State at the time. And he said, so I decided, instead of attending the conference, I decided to look and see who the suppliers and vendors were that were going to be at the conference. So he did his research on that, and out of all the suppliers and vendors that were going to be there, there were 20 of them that he was very interested in potentially doing an internship for. So he put together a letter and he sent it out to all 20 of the companies that he identified, and just mailed them out. And I said, so what happened? And he said, well, I only actually heard from one of the companies, which to me, it was kind of disappointing. I mean, in my own mind, I'm thinking that's disappointing that this young man takes the time to do that. But he said, only one company reached out to me, but it was this company in Australia. And he said, they're a startup company and they do the kind of work I'm interested in. And so they reached out to me and they said, we can offer you an internship for the summer. We can't pay you, but we'll help pay for some of your expenses. Like, we'll find a place for you to live, and we'll help with some of your food and that type of stuff. I don't know if they paid for his flight. I didn't really ask him that, but they paid for some of his expenses. And he went over there this number. When he got back, he called me up, and we actually met down on Hillsborough Street, which is right across from the university. We had lunch one day, and he shared with me his experience over there. And he said it was a great experience for him. He said, I learned so much from them. And he said, two of the men that work there have agreed to stay in touch with me and to mentor me. And this was during the
experience.
Wasn't that great? And it was so creative what he did. And he got great experience. So he actually has graduated from the university, has gotten his master's degree. It took me a little time to get this book done. I had a 2-year absence when my father was very ill, and I had to take care of him. But he's actually now working on his PhD at Stanford University. So this guy is like amazing. And I knew when I met him, I thought that guy's going to be CEO of some company someday. But his story is in my book there. And in fact, I'm looking at the book now. It says he was on his way to Melbourne, Australia. So again, that was an unpaid internship, but he was very creative in the way that he came up with finding that internship. And so what I want to say to those of you that are watching, and Lisa, and to your son and all, is this young man was extremely proactive. And, whether you're looking for a job and trying to find work, or whether you're looking for an internship, you're going to be successful if you take, the bull by the horns, if you will, and you take a very proactive stance in it and just go for it like this young man did. He didn't wait. He didn't sit back, and he didn't, scour over Indeed.com, which, is a great way to look for it too. But he proactively sought out companies and wrote them letters, and was able to, be successful in that endeavor, and has some great contacts now. So, Marci.
And he had this amazing summer in Australia. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's phenomenal.
Absolutely. I mean, I said, who wouldn't want to go to Australia? I mean, what a great place to do your internship too. So
yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So Marci, will you share your story that you shared about your former husband and when he was looking for an internship?
Sure. I mean, part of I think one of the P's that you have in your system is persistence. And so he knew that he wanted a job working in the environmental consulting industry. And he had graduated from college and had a tiny bit of experience, but found the specific company here on Long Island that he wanted to work for. And so I helped him write a cover letter, and we fixed up his resume, and he applied, and he heard nothing. And we waited a while, and he was a little disheartened. And I said, why don't you send it again? Maybe it got lost in the mail. Maybe it's sitting underneath a pile on someone's desk. You never know. So we sent it again, and the same thing happened. So he was going to give up, and we were both like 23, 24 years old. So, we don't have a lot of life experience here. And we sort of decided that he should just keep sending the letter over and over again, tweaking it each time, writing it slightly differently, or tweaking a color, or, it could be minor. And then he just kept sending it. On the 9th time, I mean, who would do this? But on the 9th time, he got a response, and they offered, they called him up and asked him if he wanted to come in for an interview. He interviewed with them, and they hired him right then and there. And he's been with the company now since 1994. So it's been 26 years.
Went from internship to a full-time job for him.
Yeah, he's now a vice president. So
Yeah.
So
You know what?
basically, or do you want to?
Well, I think it's gonna go.
I think Lisa's microphone's on.
Sort of.
So anyway, so I don't know if Lisa heard that or not, but what I want to say about that story that Marci just shared, what's so interesting about it is that whether you're a college student looking for an internship or a job seeker looking for a job, I want to tell you that being persistent and perseverance and even patience will pay off for you, because most people are going to give up after the first, if not the second time, and go, well, forget it, right? But here's the thing I tell people: if you really want to work somewhere, just to keep going after it. Now, it could have been the tweaking of the resume that did it. I'm guessing it probably didn't have a lot to do with the resume.
It might not have.
I'm guessing that most of it had to do with timing. Okay, that when it came in the other times, and it may not have even made it off of somebody's desk, it may have gotten like lost in the shuffle. You never know. And if you don't hear from them saying, hey, we're not interested in you, why not keep sending it in, especially if it's a place that you're very interested in, to be persistent in sending it in, because you never know. And what harm does it do?
Exactly. The answer is going to be no if you don't do anything about it. So you haven't lost anything by sending it in again.
Yeah. But a great story. 9 times he sent it in, and now he's the vice president of the company 20 some years later, right?
I mean, it doesn't always work that way. I was once up for a job that I thought I was definitely getting, and they brought me in 3 separate times, and I had a total of 8 interviews they showed me my desk, they introduced me to everyone I was going to work with, and then they gave the job to someone else. Yeah. So you never know.
But you never know. But again, don't give up. You know, keep going and pursuing that company, especially if it's one that, hey, I really want to work here. I want to give you a story now that I heard Les Brown, and those of you that don't know who Les Brown is, gosh, I don't know, he must be in his early 80s now. I mean, at least late 70s. I'm not exactly sure, but he's a motivational speaker. He's been around for a long time. He's awesome. I love to listen to Les Brown speak. I've heard him in person. A couple of years ago, I saw him in Raleigh, North Carolina, at the PNC Arena, which is where NC State plays basketball and the Carolina Hurricanes play hockey. And the place was packed, and he was one of the speakers. And he shared a story about when he was a young boy. Very interesting. He said that he was an adopted child. He was adopted with his twin. And when he grew up, and this is, some of it's not such a nice story, but when he grew up, everybody called him the dumb twin. So that's the way they referred to him as when he was a kid. He was the dumb twin. Okay. So he had kind of overcome that whole mental thing of being referred to as the dumb twin. But he decided at some point that he wanted to, his career choice was he wanted to be a DJ. Okay. And so there's a local radio station, and he went down there one day and he knocked on the door of the radio station, and someone opened the door and they said, "What do you want, kid?" He said, "I want to work here at the radio station." And the person at the door said, "We're not hiring," and they slammed the door in his face.
Yikes.
That was day one, right? So the next day, Les said, "I want to work at that radio station." So he went down to the same radio station, knocked on the same door. Same guy answered the door, and he opened it up. He said, "What do you want?" He said, "I want to work here at the radio station." The guy said, "I told you yesterday, I'm not hiring." Boom, slams the door in his face, right? So as Les is telling this story, it was 5 days that he went down there. Same thing. The guy looking at him like, "Are you stupid?" or something, like, "I told you already 4 or 5 days in a row, I'm not hiring." He didn't give up. He came back another day. It was the 6th or 7th day that he went by, knocked on the door again, and it's actually the owner of the radio station, small radio station, opened the door and said, "I thought I told you I wasn't hiring." And he said, "Yes, but I really want to work here." And the guy reaches around the corner, pulled out a broom. He said, "Can you sweep?" And Les Brown said, "Sure, I can sweep." He handed him the broom. He said, "Hey, you got a job." And so that's how he started his job at the radio station. and he was sweeping floors. And he said, I swept floors for weeks and months. I don't know how long. I can't remember how the story went. But one day he said that door of opportunity opened for him. And what happened, he said, the owner called me. I was working there late one night. The owner called me and said, hey, Les, I need you to do me a favor. He said, you know, the DJ that's supposed to be on tonight, well, he's drunk and he can't be on tonight. So I said, I need you to get on the phone and start calling the other DJs and get somebody in there real quick for the 6 o'clock show or 7 o'clock or whatever it was. So Les Brown saw this as an opportunity for himself.
Let's not call the other DJs.
So he didn't call the other DJs, and he did sort of like Marci sitting there in front of that microphone now. He went in and he did the show. Uh-oh, I might have a barking situation coming here. Anyway, so he did the show that night. Okay, he just said, what's the worst thing they can do? Fire me. I'm just sweeping floors anyway. He got in there and started turning records, right? And the radio station got tons of phone calls that night. Who is that new DJ? He is awesome.
Wow.
And that's how he ended up getting his first job as a DJ.
Wow.
And so, you know, but he was there when that door of opportunity became available.
It's timing.
He was persistent. He was willing to take the job sweeping floors, but he was in the right place at the right time, and he went after it, right? And so that's the same thing when we're talking about, you know, finding internships is, you know, using Les Brown as an example, or using Marci's former husband as an example, that persistence, that perseverance, you know, patience, as Les Brown experienced, and as well as the young man that I spoke about that was looking for that internship in the automobile industry. So, oh my, Marci, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I didn't move.
For some reason, it's saying that I need to upgrade my plan here on Zoom, and I have a paid account, so I'm not sure, but I may be running out of time. I got about 10 minutes left, and I think that's fine. But I wasn't able to get the Facebook live stream at the same time, so I need to support people here at Zoom and find out what's going on, since I do have a paid account. So, but I'm not sure if Lisa's there anymore. I don't see her.
No, I think she left.
She said she might have to drop off, but Marci, what else do you have to add as far as advice to help people? You know, and high school kids are looking for internships too. Again, just like my neighbor looking for that internship so that she can ultimately go to vet school someday. What advice do you give to your students when they come to you with those types of questions?
Well, I talk to them about ooh, the sound is very strange. I talk to them about a lot of what you said about using contacts and building a support system. And sometimes if you can't get into the field that you want, like if you're a lawyer, if you want to be a lawyer and you can't get anything in a law firm, that finding positions that have similar skill bases is sometimes a good tangential position to take, especially as an intern, to sort of build your resume up. I've also told people to try to get jobs at temp agencies, because temp agencies, you know, and even if you go in there and all you're doing is administrative stuff, you get to see a large variety of different kinds of companies in different industries. And although you might not be performing the jobs that you think you might want at some point, you are there sort of absorbing the atmosphere and so on. And you can sort of determine whether you want to do something or don't want to do something. I mean, especially for kids, high school kids, college kids, especially who don't really know what they want to do, it's kind of a good exposure, general exposure to a large variety of things.
Sure. The temp agency, you and I talked about that yesterday, and I think that's a great idea. And not only does it, you know, it gives you some business experience. It may not be exactly what you want to do, and like you say, especially for those that aren't certain what they want to do. But the other thing I know, and I haven't worked for temp agencies, but in my 23 years of teaching project management classes, I've taught from, you know, food companies and pharmaceutical companies and Boeing and Ford Motors and UPS and, you know, Qualcomm and just all kinds of, you know, IT companies.
All different companies, but they need the same skills.
And and what's interesting is I get to see the corporate culture.
Right.
I get to learn a lot about their culture and their industry. And so you're still learning in that process and helping you to kind of hone, like, yes, I'd like to go in this area. Or as you said, no, I don't want to go in this area.
Sometimes that's just as valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, I don't really have anything else to add right now. And we don't have anybody else on the call. So, that I can see. So, Marci,
I think we've covered it.
I think we've covered it, and I wanted to look at the calendar here. I believe this is like October the 8th would be 2 weeks from now. So we're going to try to do this every 2 weeks for those of you that might want to join us. I believe in October, we might be talking about using personality assessments and things like that to start determining.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I think we're going to do that next time. So I believe this is going to be, if I have my, let's see, yep, it's going to be October the 8th. So
Yep.
I'll be putting information out there, but put that on your calendar, October the 8th at 4 o'clock again. And we'll put a link out there. It'll be a Zoom link or something, but we'll let you know how to find us. And also, Marci will probably post this pretty quickly on her YouTube channel. And I'm also going to get mine on a YouTube channel as well, and so you can find us there. But I'll post something on my Facebook group, how to find us and how to find this recording and the one that we did last week. And that Facebook group again is Project Career Quest VIP Experience. So, and then Marci, her YouTube page again is Marci Brockmann. You can see that, and that's Brockmann.
2
right?
N's. The YouTube channel is called What's Up Marci. So you can just search What's Up Marci and you'll find it. But I'm all over Facebook as Marci Brockmann and Instagram and so on. It's all linked together.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you in about 2 weeks. Okay.
Certainly.
Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye.
Bye.